In June 1944, during World War II, the Battle of Normandy, also known as D-Day, was one of the largest invasions in history, when some 156,000 American, British, and Canadian forces landed on 5 beaches along a 50-mile stretch of the heavily fortified coast of France's Normandy region. I served in the Army from 1943 to 1945. I left home and kissed my mom goodbye and didn't see her again until I came back home. I was never a good soldier and didn't finish basic training. I can remember getting in trouble my first day for taking pictures with a $2 camera. My sergeant stomped on my camera, and ever since then, I didn't like the attitude of war or being a soldier. Whenever I could get away from the atmosphere for free time, I would. We didn't know when the invasion would happen, but we knew it was coming. On June 5th, 1944, we were on a ship all night in the dark before the invasion. There were wall-to-wall landing crafts all around, when all of a sudden our ship hit a mine and sunk. I didn't have a choice but to inflate my lifebelt and swim ashore, which wasn't easy. I was carrying all my gear and 2 torpedoes as I swam ashore for several hundred yards to the beach as the sun came up. I was scheduled to be among the first soldiers to land on the beach on D-Day, in charge of demolition on Omaha Beach, one of the 5 beaches being invaded. My job was to blow up barbed wire along the beach so that the troops could advance to the Germans and fight to take back France. The weather was only getting worse. It was windy and the water was rough trying to get on the beach, while ships everywhere were banging against one another. That day was 99% fear and 1% seasickness. That's the only time I can ever remember being so sick. I struggled to make it through the sand carrying all my gear, but I approached the barbed wire. There were bombs dropped all over the beach that night before to make foxholes to hide in. We had no cover all over the beach except for those. I got onto the beach at 2 p.m. that day and already had thousands of soldiers piling onto the shore behind me with German pillguns shooting from every direction and Navy crossfire towards the Germans from behind. The tide was coming in, so we had to hurry and advance up the beach. I only survived that day because the gunfire was shooting into the masses behind me, and the Germans were not focused on the first guy up ahead. I came up to the barbed wire strung out along the beach with coils so thick you couldn't cut it. I grabbed a torpedo, pulled the link, and dove into a foxhole as it went off. I don't remember looking back much that day. After moving past the barbed wire, I had to climb huge sand dunes up the beach. For 8 hours, there was constant shooting and fighting Germans during the day as they advanced at night, retreating. We lost 90% of our men that day on the beach, and then fighting the hedgerows of Normandy. The next day I was wounded, shot by a sniper who broke my ribs and damaged the nerves in my left arm as I fell against the tank. I was taken on several ships to several hospitals on my way home, eating nothing but billy goat and beans until I finally came back to New York. Despite horrific casualty rates, Claude achieved his objective that day, and by late August 1944, all of northern France had been liberated, and by the following spring, the Allies had defeated the Germans. Normandy landings have been called the beginning of the end of the war in Europe.